I'd like to welcome you to our October 6, 2022 council meeting. In the interest of time efficiency and ensuring that everyone who wishes to address the council is given the opportunity to do so, the following will apply to all comments made by the public. If you desire to be recognized by the chair, please fill out a request form and present it to the city clerk present here in council chambers. Each speaker shall be allotted 3 minutes to address the council unless such time is extended by the mayor or by questions from council. Groups shall designate a spokesperson to avoid repetition of comments. Every effort will be made to avoid interrupting speakers. Thank you for participating in your city government. Please silence all electronic devices. With that, I'll call this meeting to order. And could we please stand for our invocation? It's good to have Pastor Kathy Thacker from First United Methodist Church here again. And if you'll come and lead us in our invocation, everyone please remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for this beautiful weather we have had this past week, cooler temperatures and beautiful sunshine. We thank you for getting us safely through Hurricane Ian, for the rebuilding and restoration already underway. We pray for those who have been displaced because of flooding and damage in their homes and businesses. We know that many people in our state have suffered a great loss, and we ask that you would be with them and bring help and hope. We thank you for the excellent response of our city personnel, emergency management, fire and police department, utility companies, for all that they have done to keep us safe and for the restoration of power and services. We thank you for the generosity of the citizens and businesses in our community, providing resources and help. We are overwhelmed with the outpouring of love for those in need. Tonight, we lift up our city commissioners, our mayor. For each and every person here tonight, we ask that you would be with us, and we thank you for the blessings that we enjoy in our lives. We ask that you would give us wisdom and guidance, that the decisions that we would make would be for the benefit of our city, for the good of all people. Give us respect for one another. Help us to work together that we might accomplish great things tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Thacker. Please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Blackwell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Here.
Councilmember Urban?
Here.
Councilmember Askew?
Here.
Councilmember Trace?
Here.
At this time, we'll ask the city manager if there are any updates to our agenda.
No, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. First, we have a proclamation and in recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month to Angeline Montijo. Did I come close? Please come on up. Stand right over here. Whereas each year the United States observes National Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating the culture, heritage, and countless contributions of those whose ancestors were indigenous to North America, as well as those who came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. And whereas what began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Johnson was expanded by President Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period starting on September 15 and ending on October 15. And whereas the date September 15 is significant because it is the anniversary of independence for the Latin American countries of Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Additionally, Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence days on September 16 and September 18, respectively. And whereas, recognize and honor the many ways that Hispanics have enriched the fabric of our society while also rededicating ourselves to address the lack of equal access to opportunity that many still face. And whereas Hispanics continue their rich tradition of significant and diverse contributions to the cultural, educational, economic, and political vitality of St. Cloud. Now, therefore, I, Nathan Blackwell, Mayor of the City of St. Cloud, proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2022 as National Heritage Hispanic Month. And I encourage all residents to celebrate our unique and vibrant history and recommit ourselves to a shared future of healthy, peaceful, safe, and sustainable communities for all. Would you like to say something?
I wasn't prepared for the bus.
Well, don't say a lot then. Say a little.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Angeli Montijo. I represent here in St. Cloud the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce of Central Florida. I'm also in the notary of the group. I also work for Harmony High School, so I do a little bit of trying to involve in the community with the small businesses. I try to help them expose themselves out there. We are a minority, so we need to work together. So I love that St. Cloud is joining us with the Hispanic Heritage Month. I thank you so much. I've been living here for 7 years. I moved from Puerto Rico, and I love St. Cloud. I live in Harmony, but I moved this way because of the country. I love the people here. Really, you have a wonderful, wonderful city that you're taking care of very, very good.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that you're doing this for our Hispanic people.
All right, thank you. Will you step over and look at the picture here?
I didn't talk a lot, right?
This is yours. Ready?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. God bless everybody. Gracias a todos. Thank you to all.
Muy bien. At this time, I have a proclamation recognition of National Community Planning Month to Melissa Dunklin and her team. Come on up, guys. Come on down.
The short agenda.
And we have our mascot, too. It looks like. Absolutely. Whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places. And whereas community planning and plans can help manage the change in a way that provides better choices for how people work and live. And whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. And whereas the full benefits of planning requires public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation. And whereas the month of October is designated a National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories. And whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of the planning commissions, members of volunteer advisory boards, and other citizen planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of the city of St. Cloud, Florida. And whereas the celebration also gives us the opportunity to recognize the many valuable contributions made by the professional community planners of the City of St. Cloud Community Development Department. and extend our heartfelt thanks for their continued commitment to public service and to our citizens. And now, therefore, I, Nathan Blackwell, Mayor of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Community Planning Month. You don't have a speech either, huh?
I did not prepare anything. I didn't know that I would have the opportunity to speak. I just want to say that everything we do is because of the team, and what we do is very important to the city, and we appreciate the fact that the city recognizes that. But if it weren't for this awesome team that we have right here, none of the work would get done. So thank you all.
Yay, team. How do you want to do this?
You're in the curve.
You want me to get the curve? I'll be the thorn among the roses.
Dave, jump up.
Thank you, guys. Y'all doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
At this time, we have a presentation by Libby Pigman from South Florida Water Management District, as well as Michael Creeley from the Army Corps of Engineers. Welcome to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Council, for having us here tonight. First, I want to talk about the great effort that was made by all the agencies involved. This truly has been an interagency effort that has required a lot of coordination, and all of the partners have stepped forward, but from the federal government with the Army Corps of Engineers, the state from our leadership with Governor DeSantis's team, from the Florida Emergency Operations Center, Osceola County, Orange County, in cooperation with the St. John's Water Management District, my agency, the South Florida Water Management District, and your city staff. I have to give a lot of kudos to your city staff. Lynette has been with us at the EOC, or Mayor Blackwell has been on the calls, and also your Public Works Director, Kevin Felblinger. Kevin has been a great partner. He has a lot of knowledge about how the system works, probably now more knowledge than he ever wanted to know about how the Water Management District system worked. And also your boots on the ground guys. When we went out to Blackberry Creek, those guys came out there, the Corps was out there, the district was out there, and St. Cloud Public Works guys were there, and everybody just put their heads together and said, okay, look, we've got a problem here, how do we fix it? We need to come up with a solution. And everybody took their local knowledge, their education, their knowledge about the system and how it works, and put it together, and very quickly turned around and put out a really impressive show of ingenuity, frankly. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the St. Cloud field station staff. South Florida Water Management District has a field station located in St. Cloud. Our superintendent is George Wheeler, and he and his staff have really been working around the clock to make sure that the system works up to its peak, and make sure that everybody's taken care of. So I always have to give our boots on the grounds guys the kudos and the recognition that they deserve. So I want to start out with my slide up here. You guys will recognize this structure. This is the S59 structure. And so what you're seeing there is our crews deployed with a crane, setting pumps in place to be able to move more water out of East Lake Toho. And that's an aerial shot. I want to tell you guys that one of the things that we've done from the very beginning was deploy our helicopter, and we've done aerial surveillance of the area. Our executive director and our chief engineer have been up in the air surveying the landscape and seeing what the condition of the lakes and the canals were from the very beginning, and that really does provide us an excellent vantage point from being able to see what the water is doing, and this photograph was taken from our helicopter. Okay, I'm going to advance to the next slide. First, I want to tell you a little bit about the South Florida Water Management District. You may be asking yourself, South Florida Water Management District. You're probably thinking, South Florida, that's like Miami. Well, South Florida Water Management District manages the water for 16 counties, and it starts up here basically at Shingle Creek in Central Florida and runs to the Florida Keys. And the reason for that is because that is how the watershed operates. And I'm going to go through that. But essentially, a drop of rain that falls in Shingle Creek eventually makes its way to the Florida Everglades. And so we manage water for the benefit of the entire system. And so rather than having each county manage its own water, or an agency from a long way away like Tallahassee, we are looking at it from a regional perspective, and there are 5 water management districts throughout the state. South Florida Water Management District is by far the largest water management district in the state, and we have 4,000, that's not a misprint, 4,000 miles of canals and levees that we manage throughout those 16 counties. And that is for the benefit of over 9 million residents that live within the South Florida Water Management District. So I wanted to give you guys kind of an overview of how the water flows and why the Water Management District is set up the way it is. So the first picture that you see is historic Everglades flow. This is pre-drainage. So that is the way, this first slide up here shows how the water would have flowed before it was altered by man. And so up here at Shingle Creek, the water comes in, it would flow through these chain of lakes, ultimately make its way down the Kissimmee River into Lake Okeechobee, and then it would sheet flow all the way down into the Everglades and Florida Bay. And in the 1920s, there were several really bad hurricanes. And so, people said, this is really bad. Like thousands of people died around Lake Okeechobee. And a dike was built around Lake Okeechobee, and there were some structures put in place to help provide some drainage. Florida is exceptionally flat. And in order for people to be able to live here and be able to move water off people, they started digging canals back very early when people first moved here. But in the 1940s, particularly 1947, there was a year with record rainfall, and it was very severe. During the year of 1947, 11 counties in the South Florida Water Management District area were covered with over 50% of the county with water for 6 months. So that water fell, and kind of probably similar to what we're experiencing now, but it took 6 months to get it off. We've been at this for a week, and we're making headway. 6 months, and they were flooded. And that was from up here in Kissimmee, in Osceola County, all the way down to Fort Lauderdale and Miami. So after that, everybody met in Okeechobee County. I know that seems kind of strange, but that's where it was. At the courthouse in Okeechobee County, they had a big barbecue, and they said, we're going to fix this. We're going to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And so they came up with something called the Central and South Florida Plan. And it was a way to engineer the system, to connect the systems, and to be able to provide flood protection. So they came up with structures and canals to be able to move water and to be able to quickly drain the landscape so that people could be protected from flooding. So there's been some alterations since then. We've been working on restoration efforts, but the water comes in, it goes down through the Kissimmee River, which you can see here, there was this light green area. This was all just floodplain. And the way that that worked was in the summertime, when we would have these storms, this entire area would just become inundated. So it really wasn't safe for anybody to be able to have any sort of reasonable assurance that they could build a house anywhere in here that it wouldn't flood. So from here to here, and then certainly here. And so after they built this, it allows people to feel comfortable and to have assurance that they can build their homes and businesses and railroad and roads through here, and that water will be moved down, because in the summertime, this would all just expand, and in the wintertime, it would contract. And so the water goes down currently into Lake Okeechobee through these series of canals and lakes. There is a canal that has been dredged to the west coast and the east coast to relieve pressure when the lake gets too high. And then there are these series of outfalls that go to the ocean over here along the east coast. And then there's like this tiny little way that water can get to the Everglades. And you see, look at how big that sheet flow was there, how much water was going before drainage. Look at it now. And the Everglades, everybody recognized that's really bad. The Everglades is a worldwide wonder. It's a natural resource that needs to be protected. And so this is the plan for restored Everglades flow. And so we've done some restoration up here on the Kissimmee River. We've restored the floodplain up here, which was 20 years worth of effort that we're just now beginning to see our efforts be able to be utilized during this storm. We have lessened the discharges to the east and west coast, and we are increasing the water that we can safely send south. Okay, now let's go to your area. This is Osceola County, and this is how the water naturally flows through the system. I say naturally, normally flows through the system. We're not natural anymore, because natural was everything just gets wet. But here's something kind of interesting that I didn't know before this storm started. Up here at Lake Myrtle, you know, we always think water flows south, right? That just makes sense. Well, not here. Right here, Lake Myrtle goes up. Water from Lake Myrtle goes up, and it goes into Lake Hart and Lake Mary Jane, East Lake Toho, Lake Cypress, and then down into Lake Kissimmee and down the Kissimmee River. Well, one of the things that we've done with engineering is there's a structure here that goes out of Lake Myrtle, and normally that structure sends water up to Lake Mary Jane. It's the S57 structure. Well, we engineered that project with the Army Corps of Engineers to be able to reverse the flow. And so right now, water that would be going up and coming down into East Lake Toho is actually being forced down through the alligator chain of lakes. We are assisting that with pumps, but we have reversed that, where that water that would come from Lake Myrtle is now coming down the alligator chain of lakes. Okay. Here's where we are today. You can see this map. It's a little hard to see. You probably have it on your screen. It's easier to see. But we went into action. We recognize that there is a historic amount of water here. We're talking 1947 numbers for you, 15 inches of rain in 48 hours. And we are working with state, federal, and local partners in aggressively moving this water south to relieve flooding in your local communities and balance water flow in Central Florida. This map shows through these icons that we are deploying additional high-volume pumps at strategic locations, and many more pumps from the state EOC are coming, and we are being staged and are getting ready for operation. And the goal is to take that water and, as quickly as we can, bring it down through those chain of lakes and down into the Kissimmee River and ultimately into Lake Okeechobee. We prepare year-round for a major storm event, as you do, I'm sure. But we also employ a staff of meteorologists that work for South Florida Water Management District. We make forecasts 10 days out, and we start making water management decisions 10 days out about how we're going to move water through this highly engineered system based on weather predictions and rainfall predictions. And not just like, oh, it's going to rain in Orlando. It's down to very small areas that we are able to look at and track where we think the rain is going to fall. And then we move water based on that. Prior to this storm, we were sending high volumes of water down through the Kissimmee River in preparation because we saw that there was going to be a rain coming to this area. The preparation includes monitoring and actively adjusting flood protection gates and pumps in response to the forecast and the rainfall. So let's get to the part that everybody wants to know about. What is going to happen with East Lake Toho? So you can see that this is before the storm, right? And this is Friday. This is Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You can imagine that this was a lot of anxiety that was happening right here, a lot of preparation. But if you notice, look what's happening here. There is a downward trend. And that is very good news. We are still quite high, though. This is where we want to be going into the dry season. This is where we get really worried. And this is where we tell people, don't build your houses anywhere below this. So look at this. We're up here. Water is not in people's homes, but it is much higher than we want it to be. And so we are working with those pumps, with those structures. One of the things that I want to bring to your attention, in addition to all these pumps, is at the south end of Lake Toho, Big Lake Toho, there's a navigation structure there. And normally that's for a boat lock. So we have these structures that we move water with that are, most people don't interact with. We just send flows through them, and most people don't even know that that's happening. It just take for granted, look, I'm driving over a bridge and there's an alligator on the sign. But we do have some navigation locks here, and there is a navigation lock that people use to go out of Big Lake Toho. And normally, the way that those work is you use them to equalize the water depths. So it opens up, the chamber opens up, you put your boat in, they close one side, then they open the other side, and you go out. So the height is not, we can keep those lakes, the height appropriate. Well, right now, we have those locks are just completely fully open. And that is not a normal operation for us, and it's actually not good for that structure. It causes damage to the structure, and we will have to do repairs to that structure after this storm is over. But we are sacrificing that structure to provide flood protection to these communities. And because of that, with that lock open, we have an additional 4,400 cubic feet per second that we're able to move out of Lake Kissimmee right now to make way for water to move down through East Lake Toho. I'm sorry, not Lake Kissimmee, Lake Toho, from East Lake Toho down into Lake Toho. So we're putting out almost 8,000 cubic feet per second out of Toho, which is a lot of water moving south. And so it will happen. That recession will happen, and it's happening quickly. We wish that it would be quicker, but it is happening quickly. And as East Lake Toho recedes, then Fells Cove and Lake AJ and Lake Hart will recede. And then all of that will move down south, and it will go down to the Kissimmee River. And, we were, Lake Okeechobee was right around 13 feet when this storm event started. And we're projecting that it's going to be over 16 feet when this storm is over. That gives you an idea. You can see how large Lake Okeechobee is. 3 feet of water on Lake Okeechobee is a lot of water. And that's how much we're moving down there as quickly as we can. So we've gone over what our projections are. I don't know a timeline for when we're going to get back to normal. But what I can tell you is that we are moving as quickly as we can, and we are deploying every resource that we can bring and the federal government can bring to bring relief and bring those water levels down. Our Emergency Operations Center remains at a level 1, which is our full activation, and we are committed. I heard our executive director say at our 4 o'clock briefing, we will stay at level 1 full activation until this conditions are alleviated up here. So our staff in West Palm is working 24/7. We are making adjustments to the system as we see it responding to the actions that we're taking. And our team, from the guy that operates the crane to our executive director, are fully dedicated to the recovery effort and will keep working to provide relief to communities impacted by Hurricane Ian. And with that, I will take questions, and I thank you for having me here to give this presentation.
Well, we certainly want to say thank you for all the incredible work that you and the Army Corps of Engineers has done coming alongside our staff, helping to mitigate the challenges that have certainly been presented to our city as well as to our county and the surrounding counties. Thank you so much. Councilmember Thiene.
Thank you. So I've spent a lot of time in the county EOC over the last week, and I'll tell you, every time I'm there, these 2 individuals are in the building, and I've never seen that amount of coordination ever. Like, everybody's coordinating very well together. Orange County, Reedy Creek, the Water Management District, the Army Corps. I mean, I've literally never seen this kind of cooperation and coordination. I mean, we're even getting phone calls from Reedy Creek, like, hey, you know, Orange County wants us to discharge some water. Can you receive it? And we're like, no, please hold it. You know, and everybody is working together. So thankfully, I don't know what magic spell has been cast, but but thankfully that's been happening. So they're working really hard. And one, I have to say, Lisa Prather from the Water Management District, she has been in the building, I think, 24/7 for, and like literally I've never seen like, you know, district like basically becoming staff in there, but they've done amazing jobs. And every day we wait for this 11 o'clock briefing about the modeling. So they've got people modeling 24/7, and they come and we all wait for the briefing to hear what's going to happen. And it's been really amazing cooperation. So I thank you and appreciate it. And I saved him from going out with on a jet ski. He was willing to jump on some lady's jet ski and go out into just the water. I was like, maybe not. Maybe not a great idea. But yeah, they've done a fantastic job. And city staff as well has been basically sitting in the EOC a lot too, to try to be on, you know, get everybody on the same page. I think you got to be in the same room a lot of times. Otherwise, the conversation kind of skips over you, you know, but they've done a great job.
Councilmember Trace.
Thank you. Just want to thank you guys for the effort on everything. We had more than a 100-year storm, and we kept the levels below the 100-year stage. So I think that's excellent, and that's also thoughtfulness of how you guys prepared before this. And then also appreciative of, I'm sure the stuff we're doing to drain out Blackberry Creek and some of those areas aren't really permitted that way. Thank you for letting us kind of block off some areas and just pump out water to try to give those residents some relief. Are there any worries in the tropics for us coming up to think about, prepare for, of it's going to take us weeks to draw down the lakes to the levels that are safe again? Do we have any worries of just other storms coming up?
Well, Councilmember Trace, I will tell you this.
Could you step up to the mic, please?
Oh, sure. Our meteorologists, you know, are tracking that closely. But I will say that, you know, that is one thing we cannot control. And, you know, I've said from the very beginning that the biggest blessing that we've had through all of this is the gorgeous weather that we are having. I've never had a storm where it immediately ended and there was a cold front and it stopped raining. It's like God is smiling down on us. And so I would just say to that is keep praying because I don't know the answer to that. And if there is rain, obviously that's going to impact our models, you know, and that's going to impact how quickly we can move water out of the system. So we'll just keep holding on that it's going to stay dry.
Yeah.
I'd say remember to be cognizant. Hurricane season runs till the end of November.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Once again, thank you for all your work. Thank you so much for what you've done and still what you're doing. Thank you.
And I should bring up, normally the district that the South Florida Water Management District operates with is the Jacksonville District, Colonel Jamie Booth. But Colonel Booth brought in the team from New Orleans because people from New Orleans, I think, probably have some additional expertise on flooding. And Colonel Jones has been a great leader to work with, and we've really enjoyed that partnership.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been good. We do a lot of water, but working down here with it's been a fantastic group to work with down here, though.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm sure it'll be said again, I just want to, our city staff has just been amazing. They roll up their sleeves, everybody's been helping carry the load and working around the clock. Thank you, guys. Just can't, every department has just been amazing. Thank you. At this time, we have an update by Chief Miller regarding our response, our recovery.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Chief Miller, your fire chief. I greatly appreciate you having me in this evening to give you a briefing. I got to say thank you to OUC South Florida Army Corps. The partnership with them has been absolutely amazing. Just the open lines of communication, the being able to talk, problem solve, seeing how we could make things work to make the city start recovering. It was an amazing thing to experience. And obviously now I'm in a different role than I was back in 1998, so it was really awesome to see the management side of it. So thank you again. Couldn't have done it without you guys. We appreciate you. So obviously we're here to do a little briefing about post-Hurricane Ian, what we went through, where we're at. As you know, Hurricane Ian came up into Florida. This is a little video just kind of showing the effects. It started down in the Caribbean, came across Cuba, and up into Florida. So we just wanted to do a little video put up together by Noah and some others here. Some nighttime imagery, seeing the lightning coming off of it was pretty cool. As it said, it hit Cuba as a Category 3 hurricane crossing into the Florida Strait area. If you remember, this storm was originally projected to go and come up west of Tallahassee. And then it came into Cayo Costa, Florida, around 3:15 in the afternoon as a Category 4 storm, very similar to the Charlie path. So you'll notice here there will be a skip where all of a sudden it's on Florida and then it'll come out on the other side, and that's because at night they couldn't get good satellite imagery. That's where it came across and became a Cat 1 going out into the Atlantic before it headed north towards our friends up in the South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina area. Again, Noah, Sierra, and NASA put that video together, and we thank them for it. This storm, literally we knew it was kind of coming this way. We didn't expect to have quite the impact we had. Obviously, it was predicted to head up into the North Florida Panhandle area. It has been the strongest hurricane since 2005 with Hurricane Rita, which came up into the Gulf of Mexico. Fifth strongest hurricane to strike the U.S., measured by wind speed. It actually was slotted as a little bit stronger than Charlie because its millibars were a little bit lower than Charlie was. The path hurricane traveled, obviously, northeast across the state. The original models had it coming in, as I said, west of Tallahassee. Then they altered it and actually showed it going up the center of the state. And then eventually that front pushed down a little bit further, causing it to exit northeast over near the Vieira area of Brevard County. We got very fortunate in that respect. Obviously, the models we were continuously modeling and checking the weather patterns. We truly didn't expect it to make that crazy turn that it did. This hurricane, as we brought up and as South Florida said, it was more than a 100-year storm. It dropped 17 inches of rain in the St. Cloud area, according to our rain gauges that we had in that period. Again, here's the original, or one of the original tracks in the first couple days. We actually showed it going up into the Big Bend. We know that that did not become a reality for us. And then here's the actual track as it came across. Again, the eye did not come directly across the St. Cloud area. However, we did have strong force winds. We were able to maintain operations at the fire department throughout the course. Our sustained winds did not get above 45 degrees. That was a very big blessing for us. In years past, when we've had a few of these storms come by, we've had to shut down operations. And it's important to note that police and fire were responding the whole time during the events. We did not have to brown out our response, which was a very big benefit. Pre-storm preparations, obviously, that's a big deal in the city of St. Cloud, as well as it is through the regular community. With the fire department, obviously, we checked all of our emergency equipment, we secured our facilities, staffed up additional units and resources, and we helped evacuate some special needs patients to special needs shelters. The police department modified their scheduling activities. They were doing drone flights over all of our city buildings, critical infrastructure, which, as you know, it's important to have those videos and that footage in case they get damaged for some FEMA reimbursement afterwards. They prepared all their emergency equipment, generators ready to go for the traffic lights. They deployed all their high water vehicles, which obviously is the MRAP and the Humvee, and they secured their facility. Public Information Office obviously was coordinating with the Joint Information Center over with the county, and they were doing a multitude of media posts ahead of time. Public Works, these guys were amazing. I can't say enough about Kevin's people over there. Pre-storm, they were picking up debris, they were checking all the drains. They ran extended hours at the transfer station, extended route times. Environmental Utilities was there. They were inspecting construction sites. And as you know, part of this happened with this storm. We were in the middle of transitioning Environmental Utilities to Toho, which made it a little bit interesting further on into the event. But it worked. We managed to work through that flawlessly as far as being able to have them get reports of things to them, and they were getting on it quite quickly to get those items fixed when we had failures as far as the system. They filled their chemical tanks for treated water and wastewater, and then they staged equipment around the city and the service area with operators at the plants. Ahead of time procurement confirmed all of our emergency contracts were in place, coordinated emergency fuel deliveries, keeping us up and running. Finance did a really solid job for all the employees and got them paid prior to the storm. That was an amazing thing to take care of our employees ahead of the storm in case they needed it. Finance also secured emergency cash on behalf of the city in case we had to do emergency cash purchases. Information technologies, the ones that help keep all of our computers up and running, they started running GIS and storm-related maps for us. Everything from low-lying areas through elevation checks to different networks, different water lines, canalways. We kept them busy running maps for probably 3 days going into this. They were just burning up the printers. They assessed our network, making sure we were up and running over at the EOC, and they continue to keep the system up and running even through the storm. We activated our red team for the fire department, police department, communications, other city staff call takers, public works, and the public information officer. This is be a little video of the Blackberry Creek and Pemberley Pines area for you to review. So this is the Blackberry Creek Drive there by Creek Bed Circle. This is post-event to your, I guess as you're looking at it, to your right will be Commerce Center Drive. As you can see here, the roadway is already starting to become impassable through Blackberry there near their retention pond. Up ahead where you see those cars traveling from left to right, that is actually Commerce Center Drive, and you'll see why they should not be driving there here in just a moment. This is one thing we stressed ahead of time, was not to drive through high floodwaters, and for some reason people just don't seem to want to believe that. There was a lot of people who paid a lot of money to get their vehicles towed during this storm, and they didn't need to if they would have listened. I cannot stress again, high waters is nothing to play around with. Don't drive through them if you can't see the roadway. So while they're flying that area, it should be noted that in this area, we had 0 reports of floodwaters entering any of the residential units. Our main concern was access to the area. As you can see, there's a vehicle there who actually decided to change his mind and was backing out of the area. Smart decision. The reason why is right there at around that coming into that low spot, the water was almost 3 feet deep. That's not an area for vehicles to drive when water gets that deep. You know, it's just they started creating their own road down the sidewalk, as you can see. So, long story short, if the road's flooded, don't drive down it, please. It causes a drain on resources when we have to send fire units and police units and tow trucks to pull people out. Transitioning from, you know, obviously we work arrival ahead of time going into the storm. During the storm and after the storm, from the beginning of the onset of the event, we had presence over at Osceola County EOC, as Ms. Matheny's already mentioned. We had people over there the whole time, including our PIO and Chief Tonks and Wayne Souza from the police department and Kurt Wessler as our liaison people. We were doing daily media briefings. And from the beginning of the hurricane until yesterday when we closed down sandbag operations, we distributed over 65,000 sandbags to residents and area neighbors from the county. We did have a few street closures, as everybody knows, including the Jade Isle Mobile Home Park, which although it's in the county, we kind of adopted it as ours just because it is so close and we run there quite often. Commerce Center Drive, obviously, parts of Old Canoe Creek, the intersection there was closed, and then Blackberry Creek Drive. We had some minor water intrusion into the Savannah Park area. I almost said Savannah Court, but it's Savannah Park, which we got pumped down relatively quickly. The big push came when we realized that there was that potential for flooding of the low-lying areas and the floodplain areas. We mobilized approximately 80 city employees as well as additional 20 volunteers from the county. And we did reverse 911 and did over 4,000 dwelling unit notifications of potential flood. It's 10,000 city residents roughly, but we extended it past that. We were concerned about those areas that are those enclaves. So along the lakeshore area, we went from Parton Settlement all the way to Rummel. Any of the enclaves areas along the outer periphery of the grid area, meaning along Brown Chapel and along the Orange Avenue, that area, we went ahead and hit all the enclaves also if they were identified in the floodplain area and below a 62-foot mark. We felt it was imperative to notify those people because their access may be cut off from fire rescue and emergency response. Again, it was pumping operations throughout the city. We had our city shelter was open for a little while, although there was no residents there. The county opened up multiple shelters, including their special needs shelter over at Generation Point on the Council on Aging. Pumping operations, I think our friends behind us already took care of, so I'm not going to even try to explain that because that's their wheelhouse. So knowing my limitations there for sure. The map you see before you, obviously the brown areas that are located on that map, those were all the areas that were notified of potential flooding post-event. It should be noted that we did have between 4 and 6 houses. We're still waiting on the last 2 people to get back with us that during the hurricane had flooding noted to them. We just got those notifications last night or the night before, and we sent crews out to inspect those houses and to meet with those residents. And they did a full canvassing of that area. And to this point, we have 4 reported intrusions. We're waiting on those last 2 to come back. that was in the Pine Lake Estates area, in the area that backs up to the DOT canal there. You'll notice there was a couple areas over in Turtle Creek that were notified of potential flooding. That was because of the Runnymede expansion of water going on there. And then on the west side of the city, we did notify some areas like the Hancock Circle, I believe it was, off the top of my head, and areas of Pine Lake, as well as Anthem Park. Again, they fell below those areas, and we were looking at on the hydraulic maps. So here's a little video of what we did down at the lakefront. As you know, the weirs are designed to help manage that water level. It protects us from the ponds there, protect us from flooding as far as from rain events. That creates a drain off and storage basin as that water transitions out into East Lake. It does a couple of things there. It helps clean up the water before it gets into East Lake, and it helps kind of manage some of the water along the lakefront. When the elevation of East Lake rose above the weirs, obviously that whole area became one. So with Army Corps' help, South Florida's help, our Public Works, Parks and Rec, they went down there and they went to work, and they put thousands of sandbags and giant sandbags down there. That I've never seen sandbags that large in my life. They were bigger than the bed of a pickup truck. I mean, they were just huge. They blocked that area off, and the intention obviously there is to transition the water from the ponds into the flow to get it down the canal and headed towards Okeechobee. Again, it should be noted that part of the bike path there was overtaken by water. The path out to the point over by Krabby Bill's was underwater. In fact, the other night with the wind blowing out of the north, we had water coming up into the spillway there, or the step area down onto the Sandy Beach area. Along with that came, we expanded Mother Nature's natural habitat of a lot of critters. We had lots of reports of moccasins and alligators that decided to go roaming. That was one of our biggest fears as far as putting workers in that area, is keeping them safe from this type of environment, because, again, we were playing in their backyard at this point. And we're almost done with this video. Again, if you look there, we've actually built up a couple areas along the way, just because of the elevation of the back side of the ponds there. We had to throw a little extra dirt over there. I believe we're coming up into the area near the marina, and you'll see coming up where we built that corner. So an update as far as where we're at. Solid Waste has been running 6 clam trucks, operating 12 hours a day, picking up the debris. We've published a new map showing areas complete and a schedule as far as when we'll be there. 197 tons of hurricane green debris, meaning trees and branches, by and large has been picked up to this point. Our partners, again, with the Army Corps of Engineers, South Florida, we've worked to mitigate and try to stop some of that flooding from happening within the city, and they have established high volume pumping operations, as we've heard, and we notified all the floodplains area of potential flooding. Again, review of the street closures. I believe all of those as of this evening were reported passable and open, which is great work. Last report, the Blackberry Creek area was down about 2 feet. And Savannah Park was completely dry. Again, the Silver Spurs Arena is currently still open as a shelter, and so is the Osceola Council on Aging for special needs. With that, prior to the questions, I just want to say I got to celebrate my 25-year anniversary during the middle of this event. And never in my career have I been more proud of our employees. We pulled together and we handled this. I'm just the spokesperson right now, and I was the incident commander, but the guys out in the field, the people in the EOC, many of us are on day 18 straight right now. So please bear with us if we're a little tired. Don't mind the snoring that may happen. But these people gave their all for the citizens of this town, And it was very, very encouraging to hear those great words from the citizens. And it was encouraging to hear the words from you, because that helps keep us going. Our leadership team in this city has never been stronger, and I appreciate everything you guys have done to support us, and I appreciate all of our people behind us. So with that, any
Do we
questions?
have any questions? Councilmember Urban.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to kind of emphasize what Chief Miller was saying. Just so thankful for the staff that we have here in the city. City Manager Miller, all of our first responders who were there before, during, and after the hurricane. Of course, the coordination with South Florida Water Management and the Army Corps. And I had the opportunity to ride around with the city manager and our public works director, Kevin, today to see some of the progress that was made. And I cannot emphasize enough how hard the public works department has been working. Kevin's team has been absolutely amazing. So if you see them out in the street, please tell them thank you, because they've been working hard. A lot of guys haven't had a day off for a very long time. So we're just very thankful for everything that everybody in staff did to respond to this storm. Thanks.
Councilmember Askew.
Thank you, Mayor. Ditto. I mean, I'm not going to say all that as well, but I appreciate everything you guys have done. I mean, I'm even out late at night looking at the lake, and city manager pops in at about 9:30 one night just to check on the lake itself. So I just, thanks to all the staff. It's just amazing what we've done, where we didn't know anything to where we're at right now. So thanks. I really appreciate it.
And I'm sure that's the sentiment of all of us.
Right.
You guys have done an amazing job. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Have a great night.
One other group that deserves our accolades is OUC. And so we'd like to recognize Mindy Brene at this time to give us a presentation.
While she joins us, Mayor, I would also like to point out the Parks and Rec Department. They were out there in full force with our Public Works Department. So I just wanted to also give them that credit.
Well, it's been about everybody's had their sleeves rolled up. So. Amazing.
Rolled up and in the water.
Yes.
So, good evening. So this has been an awesome council meeting for me to sit here and thank you for having me. Mayor, council members, Veronica. I'm Mindy Brene, the CFO at OUC. I wish I was here telling you some awesome stuff, but I don't think that's my message today. But nonetheless, life has to go on, and here I am doing normal business operations. So I came to you in May, and I shared with you our challenges on fuel prices. Gonna move it. Sorry about that. I shared with you our challenges. We continue to have those challenges. New challenges have popped up. You may be familiar with the fact that we came close to a rail strike, that President Biden stepped in and we avoided that. So more constraints on delivery of coal, more constraints related to natural gas. The war in Ukraine continues. So we continue to see price spikes. There are concerns about another cold winter, and all of these other impacts are really continuing to put pressure on the cost of the price of fuel and the cost that we pay for it. We did increase fuel prices in June. The prices that we increase them are not enough to cover the growing cost of natural gas and coal and all of the other ancillary costs on fuel. Chart on the right really shows you that erratic price and the fluctuations that we continue to see on a daily basis. So we brought forward to the OUC Commission meeting in September. We typically bring forward the month before a meeting and ask on the following meeting for board approval of a price increase. Given the circumstances, the board had a pricing workshop in September and approved it in the same meeting for price changes effective October 1. We did take, being very sensitive to all of our customers and the current inflationary impact that our customers and the whole economy is going through, rising interest rates and a lot of different impacts. we took an unusual step. We took some stronger than anticipated non-fuel revenues, because behind the scenes, we have two components to our revenue. They are fuel and non-fuel. Fuel is strictly a pass-through. Non-fuel covers our base operating costs, our core fixed and variable costs, excluding fuel. So throughout the year, we've had warmer than normal weather and stronger than anticipated growth on the commercial side as we've rebounded from COVID. So the board took an action to defer $25 million and help offset a portion of the fuel price increase. We believe we're the only utility in the state of Florida that has taken that step. Many have seen base rate increases from inflation, but we had the fortune of warmer than normal weather, really constrained on costs, and so we took that step. We have mitigated a portion of the fuel price increase, and so the net for 1,000 kilowatts is about $13.50. But we don't think we're done, and so we want to be candid that we're monitoring this. I feel like when I heard that on the South Water Management, they're monitoring the water levels. We're monitoring the fuel prices. We do have a budgetary increase included in the January budget for the 23 fiscal year. We continue to monitor that. The chart on the right shows you how OUC has advanced the customer funds. So again, if it costs us $1, in this case, we are collecting 75 cents from the customer. The chart on the right shows that we started the fiscal September 21 with reserves of about $61.5 million. Right now, we are sitting at close to $80 million as a negative receivable from customers. We are under collecting at about $15 million a month. So we thought the June increase would be sufficient. It has proven to be not sufficient. So the October price increase was timed to at least move past the summer months, because those are the peak months for our customer, into the cooler months of October, where the impact would not be as severe. Of course, for us, that will take a longer period of time for us to recover from this negative. Our scheduled time frame is about 2 years to recover these funds from our customers. So we wanted to share with you that, as we shared with you last time we were here in May, we are not alone. This is not unique to OUC. This is not unique to Florida. It's not actually unique to the United States. We are seeing that our peers have increased their prices. The chart on the right shows you the peer comparison for the average residential customer in St. Cloud using 1,200 kilowatts. We were at 157. The new price increase is to 173. That is both base and fuel. And then the comparison to KUA, they do change their prices monthly, but as of August, it is $188 for 1,200 kilowatts. So we are always looking at that, doing our best to help moderate price increases. I've been interviewed at WMFE. I've been interviewed by the Orlando Sentinel. These are, for us, unprecedented times, things that we really take to heart and really make these changes with a bit of a heavy heart. But, candidly, these are pass-through costs that we have stretched ourselves as much as we can. I'll stop there and answer any questions, because the next slide I have here relates to the impact of the rising fuel price and our community solar farm program.
Councilmember Trace.
You did a peer pricing based on KUA. How are the IOUs in that same 1,200 kilowatts?
So the IOUs have not taken all of their price increase at this time. FP&L has poised and shared that they were about $1.6 billion advanced to the customers. So their price increase is about $35 per customer, and that will be approved in the January PSC commission approval process. They did notice that they were forgoing the mid-year price increase opportunity because prices were so volatile. Duke is also going for about a $40 increase, again, holding back in anticipation of potential more volatility on fuels. But we should see those numbers coming through in the January timeframe.
So are they still in that $150 range, or are they already
No,
above those?
the total peer average is, well, the numbers you see here are 1,200 kilowatts. They're closer to about 180, 182 at the 1,200 kilowatts.
Okay, so they're still higher than.
They're still higher, yes.
And then are we buying natural gas and coal based on spot pricing, or are these based on futures and we can level this out some?
Well, we are trying, right? And so in some cases, we are foregoing the hedge prices because we're not hedged far enough out. We did hedge, we have a 7-year hedge program, which steps down over the 7 years. We continue to hedge when it hits what we have projected in the budget at the average spot price, which is about $5. So if we can buy below $5 on the hedge markets, and we will buy, but when it exceeds that price, we're somewhat stepping back on that. And then on the coal contracts, we are working with CSX. It's not necessarily the supply of coal, it's the delivery of coal that we're really having challenges with. And so we're really working through some challenges on resources for labor. We've offered to send them and train crews so we could actually get rails down here, but they're union, so they don't bite on that offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you probably can't even pay them enough to change any of that.
And I don't think you can hire them quick enough. That's what happened during COVID was they had a significant amount of their staff retire. And so they didn't hire quick enough because the rail lines were somewhat slower, right? With coal slowly but surely ramping down throughout the nation to move towards renewable energy, some of the volume that was being transported through the rails was declining. So they were projecting somewhat of a decline in the use of their resources. Well, this has changed this, and as you probably have read, even in Europe, they're reopening some coal plants. They're really everywhere is being challenged with this. So we do have a long-term contract with CSX. We do have a long-term contract with our coal providers, but they have to be able to get it here.
Right, and then question kind of different than that.
Yep.
The new line that's coming in, would that help reduce some of our non-fuel costs by just being a more efficient system?
The new line.
The new power line, sorry, that you guys have been.
Oh, the
and
new
substation.
transmission
Yeah.
lines. So those new transmission lines are really designed to help us support the 2025, the 2030, 2040, and 2050 renewable energy goals, because we really need to be able to transmit the renewable energy power back to the customers in the residential areas. So really is more designed for the renewable energy conversion that we're working on the clean energy plan. So I don't think that's not going to reduce our cost.
Yeah.
The
I didn't know if
cost
it made
of-
it more efficient to get it around, yeah.
No, because it's really a different path that the electrons are traveling because they're coming from the solar farms that are down here and then down here and displaced around the community, because you're going to get technical on me, but the cloud movement moves so quickly in Florida that we really can't keep solar farms in one place. So we're trying to place them strategically, which means that you've got to expand the grid to be able to deliver that energy. So I don't think it'll be cheaper, but we're hoping that by the time the winter comes down, the price of fuel, which is the real driver here, will start to moderate, and we'll be able to hedge into the future and keep prices stable as they have been for the 25 years I've been here, minus the last 12 months.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, that got technical. I felt like I just got water there. I got technical like the maps on water. So, sorry about that. So, as the traditional price of fuel elevated, it elevated past the community solar farm pricing. So what we did, and the board approved it, was we closed the community solar farm program to new participants. We are taking that excess capacity and applying it to the traditional fuel price so we can again help moderate the price for all customers. We are honoring the price for those who are currently participating in the community solar farm, which is the city of St. Cloud. The price that you have paid, which is 4.5 cents, will continue to be honored, even though it's costing us a little more for the overall portfolio, but we are honoring the community solar farm program pricing. And then to meet our commercial customer needs, many of you may be familiar that the SEC the Securities Exchange Commission is coming down with new regulations around ESG requirements. So we have a lot of requests from our large commercial customers asking us how we can complement their commitments. And so we're working on alternative ways to meet that while traditional fuel prices are so escalated. Okay, hopefully I didn't go too fast. So, all of that said, last time I was here, I brought my peer Luz Aviles with me. She's not here today, but I would be remiss in not saying we are doing everything we can. We have increased the funding for Project CARE so that customers that need assistance to pay their bill can reach out to our Project CARE coordinator. And there is funding associated with that. We have partnered with the City of Orlando as well to increase that funding. We have ways to save on the OUC web. We encourage energy audits. Come and talk to us about rebates. Come and chat with us and collaborate with us, and we'll work with the customers, payment plans, ways that we can help them save. But we're doing what we can to help them, knowing that it's not just the price of electricity, which is a necessity, else that's increasing on them as well. That's it for me. Questions?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Certainly appreciate all you did during the storm, and anything you could do to keep a handle on these costs would certainly be appreciated.
Yeah, we're doing what we can.
Thank you very much. At this time, we come to Citizens Forum. Any person who desires to comment on any item not on this agenda is provided this opportunity to address the City Council. Each person is requested to complete a signing form to be provided to the presiding officer prior to or as soon as is practical thereafter the person addresses the council. When you come forward, please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comment to 3 minutes. Would anyone like to speak during the Citizens Forum? If not, moving on to the consent agenda. The next portion of tonight's meeting is the consent agenda, which contains items that have been determined to be routine and non-controversial. If anyone in the audience wishes to address a particular item on the consent agenda, now is the opportunity for you to do so. Additionally, as staff or members of the City Council wish to speak on a consent item, they will have the same opportunity. First of all, I'll ask, are there any items on the consent agenda that you are wanting to address as the council? Councilmember Matheny.
Could we pull I as an igloo just for a clarification comment?
Anyone else? Councilmember Trace.
Item H.
Anything else? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to any item on the agenda? If not, we will then go in order of the agenda. Item H. Mr. Trace.
Thank you. I believe this is a necessary and needed project. $1.3 million to build out a 2,800 square foot building just seems like maybe this might not be the right time to be doing that because of just the way costs are right now. Going into a recession, if we're not already in it, maybe these prices will come down if we wait 6 months to a year. It seems like a lot of money.
Any other comment? Thank you. Ms. Matheny, Councilmember Matheny, item I.
Oh, I was like, I didn't know.
But I guess I'll request a separate vote for it then, for item H.
Okay, so you're going to request a separate vote on item H?
Yep.
Are there any other questions regarding item H at this point? Mr. Mazares, do we just vote on this item separately then?
It's entirely up to you. You can, yes. You can
Okay.
do it now.
Well, I certainly don't think costs are going to come down, that's for sure. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on item H.
We need a motion on it first.
Do I have a motion that we vote on item H first?
You want a motion to approve item H?
Okay. Do I have a motion that we approve item H or vote on item H? Got a motion from Councilmember Trace, right?
I can motion to deny it if you want.
That'd be fine, whatever you want.
Just someone else would need to make a motion.
Councilmember Trace has made a motion for denial of item H. Do I have a second? If not, the motion for denial has failed. Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Askew. Do I have a second? I'll make a second. Madam Clerk, you please call the roll.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Nay.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye,
Motion carries 4-1.
and the item passes. Councilmember Matheny?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify something. When I was reading the agenda package, it refers to this grant, which I love a grant. I'm excited about a grant. But if you read the details, it said that the estimated cost of the project was $1 million, and the agenda item only addressed $400,000 for the grant and $100,000 match from the city. So I know our finance director is here. If she could just step up. I just want to make sure everybody understands it's $1 million project. Because it wasn't clear in the agenda package.
Ms. Colazo?
Good evening, Wendy Colazo, Finance Director. To provide the clarification, Deputy Mayor has requested this overall cost is $1 million. It has been budgeted $400,000. The purpose of this resolution is to award and accept the $400,000 plus the $100,000 match of the city. The remainder of the cost, which is $500,000, has been budgeted being paid through impact fees. You can find it in your 5-year capital plan under impact fees, trail extensions. And originally when I budgeted that and added it, I added a buffer for material cost and construction. So it is budgeted at $1.6 million and has been adopted with your fiscal year 22-23 budget as so.
So I had just asked moving forward if we could put, all that information in the agenda package, because if you were just, you could miss that additional dollars were going to be required as part of this project. So that was it. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Could I have a motion for the adoption of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Askew and a second from Councilmember Matheny. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll for the approval of the consent agenda with the understanding item H has already been approved?
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
That brings us to the item of public hearings. Item number 1, Madam Clerk.
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2022-57, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending Article 2 definitions, Sections 2.1.1, amending Article 3 zoning regulations, amending Table 3-5 of the Land Development Code, amending Table 3-7 of the Land Development Code, amending Division 20 Supplemental District Regulations, Sections 3.20.38, Communication Tower Facility Regulations of the Land Development Code, providing for suburbility, conflict, and effective date.
Mr. Tomac.
Mayor, council members, Dave Tomac with the City Manager's Office. This is the ordinance that was drafted to it's kind of the end of your moratorium process. The key parts of this is we have updated the ordinance for communication towers so that we can actually provide more communication towers in the city. We've provided standards that are pretty consistent with cities around the area and with industry standards so that we can have the least amount of towers necessary to provide the best service. And then we've also got specific requirements in here so that for special areas of the city, your historic areas, and some of the what do you call them? Stealth and monopole type towers can actually fit in better in the community.
Aesthetically.
So we start the ordinance with definitions of all these wonderful types of towers. Some of them we're not allowing, others we're avoiding, and others we're encouraging. What we've done is we've added areas in the city that would be available for putting in cell towers. So right now, agricultural, we're adding professional zoning, highway business, CBD. We also allow open space recreational areas, especially in your planned unit developments, all the industrial districts, and in the mixed-use districts and similar use types. One of the things we do, we've got a list of prohibited towers, which are the lattice guide and mobile. I just want to clarify for the mobile towers, we are going to be allowing those, like where there's a tower that's down and they're restoring it, and in emergency situations where we need to have communication up and running. The two in the middle, broadcasting facilities, amateur radio stations, we're kind of ignoring because they're already regulated and we're preempted from doing that, as well as the small and micro wireless facilities. By statute, we were kind of preempted from doing that. We did add a public safety exemption, mainly because if it's something that deals with your public safety communications and it doesn't quite meet the code, we're allowed to go ahead and put it in because public safety is a major priority. We talked about prohibited. These are the guys that are prohibited, the lattice and the guide wire towers. In talking to the industry, the planning department did actually go out and talk to industry professionals. The guide wire tower really isn't applicable for urban areas anyway. You won't have anybody coming in and trying to force a guide wire tower anyway. And the lattice towers, pretty much with the monopoles and the stealth that you're allowing, most of the industry has kind of grown accustomed to that, and they're ready to put those kind in. The mobile tower one in the middle is the one that we talked about being allowed during emergencies or when we're repairing an existing tower. And then we talk about monopoles and stealth. These are some examples. Believe it or not, folks are, it's, you've got a 180-foot pine tree. I guess folks are used to looking at that, so they still consider those stealth and camouflage. But it's just one option. Okay, so this is where we talk about allowing it in the different districts. One of the things is in your historic preservation overlay, it does require a certificate. It's a major approval for a certificate of appropriateness, so it would have to come back. The CBD, the same thing. The spacing standards are restricted, but it requires being roof mounted and hidden, or what do you call it, architecturally designed. So tower separations. Right now you allow, with this ordinance, you'll allow a 100-foot height, but if they have multiple vendors on them, to get the best bang, we allow them up to about 180 feet. So the tower separations 1 mile in your CBD, because that's restricted to the smaller ones on the roof mount, but it's 2 miles in all the other zoning districts, because at 180 feet, you can get a good 1 mile radius and with some overlap. Setbacks, at a minimum, the setback is the fall zone for the towers. They're designed to fall on themselves. So it's not necessarily like the whole tower is going to fall across the street or on an adjacent property. We do have setbacks that require the towers to be set back the distance that the actual fall zone would be. We do require and actually encourage co-location, so that reduces the amount of towers that they'll be putting in the city. And then we talked about the height in doing that. Screening, there's requirements for walls, brick or masonry with landscaping around it, so that way the equipment at the bottom is actually screened as well. It meets your goals for growth management, infrastructure, and public service. This is the first of 2 hearings. We'll have the final hearing for adoption on the 27th, and the Planning Commission meeting is scheduled on the 18th. Hopefully I didn't go through that too quickly. I just figured you heard enough people talking so far. Be happy to answer any questions.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council. Councilmember Askew.
Mr. Tomek, you have the CBD1 on there. Is the CBD2 a part of that as well when it comes to?
No, they don't have it as a permitted use in a CBD2.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Askew.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Trace. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam Clerk, please read item number 2.
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2022-61, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, providing for findings and declarations of the City Council, amending Article 17 Parks and Recreation Impact Fee and Article 18 Public Safety Impact Fee of the Land Development Code to adopt a comprehensive impact fee schedule for public safety facilities and parks and recreation facilities, adopting an impact fee study, creating an impact fee schedule, and land use categories, providing for codification, severability, administrative correction, conflicts, and an effective date.
Good evening again, Wendy Colazzo, Finance Director. This is ordinance number 2022-61, amending Articles 17 and 18 for Parks and Rec impact fees and public safety impact fees of the Land Development Code. This amendment will update the Land Development Code, and its purpose to update is to adopt a comprehensive impact fee schedule for public safety facilities, parks and recreation facilities, as well as adopt the 2022 impact fee study, and then create an impact fee schedule and land use category. Just to provide some quick background for you, the City of St. Cloud last updated its impact fee cost basis for public safety effective on January 1st of 2018. Parks and Recreation were also updated effective August 1st of 2018. It is industry standards and best practices that they be updated every 5 years. St. Cloud retained, as you recall, Reftillis Financial Consultants. They updated the impact fees for police, fire, and recreation. This study, of course, is based on the ability to provide the necessary infrastructure to meet the growth of the city and its characteristics. Impact fees, as you well know, are calculated and are set forth and then are consistent with the Florida case law, Florida statutes, and then generally accepted impact fee methodologies as to its calculations. Continuing on, just to give you a timeline and remind you of such, the city conducted the impact fee study, completing it in 12 months, justifying those fee levels. The City of St. Cloud's 2021 impact fee study is dated February 24th of 22. Following that, so the city held 2 publicly noticed workshops. These are required to increase fees, and following above any fees above the Florida statute mandate of 163.31801, Section 6. That was done in May 19th of 22, and then July 21st, proceeding in 22. Finally, we are holding the first of 2 publicly noticed hearings that are also required. First reading as of tonight, October 6, 2022, and then October 22nd will be the final and last reading. If adoption goes through on the second reading, fees will be increased with a 90-day timeline, or will be effective in 90 days after the second reading, which again is October 27, 2022. Just a quick highlight, as you all are aware, impact fees are one-time charges. These are to capture growth. They do not fund replacements or any existing assets of the unless that original asset is increased and the capacity is made for the purpose of growth. They do not correct any deficiencies on the level of service for existing development, and they also do not fund operations and/or maintenance costs. The technical report, this is just for this review. The technical report was presented to you all and is also in your backup and was presented through workshops as well, where it was presented and reviewed to you all, council, which determined that those impact fees are necessary to offset the cost of the city. These are for facility demands that are created for the new residential and non-residential developments. The amount of the impact fees bears reasonable relationship to the burden for the city to provide these new facilities. 3, the expenditure of the impact fees pursuant to the terms of the ordinance. This will result to a beneficial use, and it's reasonably related to impact fees. That's, of course, related to dwelling per unit, by type, per increment of non-residential and development. There is, of course, the rational nexus that exists between the projected new development and the need for additional public safeties to be funded via the development fees. Item 5, the amount of development fees, again, is proportional to the fair share of the additional public facilities needed to provide adequate service for the new development, excuse me. A overview of police and fire just highlights here key drivers. These are the future public safety facilities. It is anticipated a replacement of Station 32, 2 new fire stations, and an administrative building. 2 new police not 2 new police cars, but new police cars and fire trucks. In the non-residential land use category, currently there's only 1 residential land use category, where they propose implementing 2, the non-residential land use. That will be covered under categories of industrial, 1, warehouse, and then 2, the second one would be all other non-residential. We're going to update fees in 2025 after new stations and public safety facilities are completed, with actual cost information to get real trends and updates of those impacted costs. Here is an overview of your fee schedule for police and fire by land use, by impact unit. The existing rate is on the 3rd column. The calculated new rate is in your middle column, and finally at the end, the change of percentage for you, of dollars, comparative from the existing to the calculated. Just as a note and footnote you'll see below, we just footnoted for you that the multifamily residential fee is 0.9 per unit compared to the single family fee at 1 per unit, and then the existing multifamily fee is 0.55 per single family residential unit. In the parks and recreation impact fees, these are your highlights. There's an extensive capital improvement plan that encompasses some of the items that we've just highlighted, is the community center and aquatic, the lakefront master plan project, Chisholm Park master plan projects, and projects identified in your city's 2020 master plan and CIP from April 2021. Again, fees do not fund that deferred maintenance or any other corrective measures identified in the comp plan, and then fees apply to residential land uses only in this category. Here are your existing and proposed impact fees per single detached unit, all existing with descriptions for police, fire service, parks and rec. Water, just as a footnote, that note below, water, sewer, mobility impact fees are not included in this table. Of course, they're evaluated within a separate phase of the project. Just giving you some time to read. Local comparison, this is just a highlight from your reports and pulling out for this ordinance. These are your local comparison impact fees. The right arrows colored in red give your St. Cloud existing and then your St. Cloud calculated numbers. These exclude, of course, wastewater, water and school fees. Your findings and recommendations, the findings and recommendations are to adopt impact fees to maintain that compliance with the Florida statute case laws. These impact fees, of course, are designed to meet precedents and requirements that are set forth in your 163.31.802 Florida statute. The city should adopt the impact fees as calculated to ensure that funding sources are available to fund future expansion of those projects needed to provide the level of service for new growth. Third and fourth finding and recommendations, these fees were developed obviously from identified costs to reflect recovery as such, and has discretion. The city has that discretion to phase in or otherwise adopt less than the fully calculated fees. It is noted in the findings and recommendations, however, that the adoption of these fees less than the fully calculated rates should be applied to all land uses equally to maintain the calculations and correct proportion. Adopting less than the calculated rates, of course, would increase your reliance on general fund and revenue sources to meet the demands. Layman's terms, they are to be set at 100% in order to pay for the infrastructure you're trying to load. If not, there would be an impact to the general fund. Of course, pursuant to that 163.31.01, the city, of course, will provide notice which will require that 90-day effective date of the new fees that we're imposing. Finally, 5 and 6, this is in compliance with the Florida statute. The city, of course, should collect and maintain revenue from each type of municipal and utility impact fee in sub-accounts, which we do, and those facilities that it's assigned for its purpose. And then the city, of course, should plan to update its police, fire, and recreation impact fees prior to 2025, so those fees remain, of course, steady and proportionate with the localized data. The extraordinary circumstance on this ordinance, of course, the technical report reported here, and that's why we had 2 workshops in order to be compliant with 163.31.08, 31.801, excuse me, justifying why the implementation of fees are needed and presented. You had those workshops on May 19th, July 21st to be compliant, where the city held that publicly noticed workshop dedicated to the extraordinary circumstance necessitating the need to phase, not to exceed the phase-in limitations. The fee schedule adoption summary. This is just your summary of the graphical depiction of your new fees. I'm going to just read highlights for you very quickly. Of course, if adopted, these proposed fees for police services would be $1,029 per dwelling. For single family, $992 for multifamily. 0.1130 per square foot on industrial warehousing, and 1.332 per square foot of all non-residential. For fire rescue, that would be $902 per dwelling for single, $808 for multifamily, 0.099 per square foot for industrial, and 1.167 for all other residential. And finally, Parks and Rec, $2,865 per dwelling for single family, $2,567 per dwelling unit for multifamily, and then parks and impact fees, of course, are collections on residential. Finally, impact fees, again, will become effective 90 days after the adoption of this ordinance, second reading. With any fee decreases, those become effective immediately if there were any. The only reduced fees are for industrial warehousing uses for both police and fire rescue impact fees. Staff is recommending approval of Ordinance 2022-61 and is requesting the council for approval of such as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion. A motion by council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, a second from Councilmember Urban. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Askew?
Aye.
Councilmember Trace?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item on the agenda is council action. Brings us to item number 1.
Request City Council's approval of the Tahokwa Phase 4C preliminary subdivision plan.
Good evening, Council. This is Dagmar Segarra, Planning Manager. This is the request for a preliminary subdivision plan for the Phase 4C of the Tahokwa mixed-use concept plan. The property is approximately 51.60 acres and is located south of Neptune Road, west of Florida Turnpike. It's staff recommendation to approve the PS, the preliminary subdivision plan. The applicant is requesting the approval for approximately 249 single-family attached and 90, single-family attached and 90. Oh, it's a total of 249, sorry. 90 of those are going to be attached, and 159 of those are going to be detached. The property, as I mentioned previously, is 51.60 in acre, and it is a mixed-use zoning and future land use designation. The lots vary between 20 and 50 feet wide by 100 feet in depth, and it's a maximum of 2-story. This is a This is an exhibit of the layout for the subdivision. It meets the strategic goal of growth management. And it's a recommendation from staff to approval of the preliminary subdivision plan subject to the conditions provided in the staff report. Also, staff would like to present for the record to council, we received today updated comment from 911, Osceola County 911, updating their existing condition to be met at the time of plating, and I will submit this for the record. The applicant is here to answer any questions, and this concludes my presentation. I'll be available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak at this time?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Eric Warren with Poulos and Bennett. We've been working with staff for quite a while on revisions and updates to this plan to help us bring this before you, and we appreciate their time and support, and we're available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council. Do we have any discussion? Questions?
Motion to approve.
I'll make that a second. We have a motion from Councilmember Trace, second from the mayor. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Askew?
Aye.
Councilmember Trace?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Brings us to item number 2.
Request City's Council's approval of the Tohoka Phase 8 preliminary subdivision plan.
The request this evening is for Dagmar Segura, Planning Manager. The request this evening is for Phase 8 of the Tohoka mixed use. The property is approximately 126.34 acres and is also located south of Neptune Road and west of the Florida Turnpike. Staff is recommending approval of the preliminary subdivision plan. This preliminary subdivision plan is a total of 446 single-family residents, 67 of them attached and 379 detached. As I mentioned previously, it's 126.34 acres inside and is located in the mixed-use district. Lots vary between 20 to 50 foot in wide and 100 foot in depth, and the maximum 2-story height. This is an exhibit depicting the area of the preliminary subdivision for Phase 8, and it meets the growth management strategic goals. It's staff recommendation to approve subject to the conditions and information provided in the staff report. As well as today, we receive updated comments from 911 that their condition can be met during plating, and we also receive a new condition from Osceola County Transportation, which they can also address with the corrections to the cross-section of their road. And I will submit this for the record. The applicant is here to answer any questions you may have, and this concludes my presentation. I'll be available to answer any questions you may have as well.
Once again, would the applicant like to speak to this item?
Good evening again. Eric Warren, Wilson Bennett. I'm still available for questions.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and motion by council. Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you, Dagmar. Can you go a couple slides back to one of the site plans, like not this one, but one more before this?
The one with the aerial?
That one.
Okay.
So I know that we had comments previously when approvals came through with Tohoku, and we said, you know, hey, let's make sure that the stacking in the school doesn't come out, and what are we going to do, and how are we going to deal with this, and the trees, and all this other stuff. But we have no plan for the school. I feel like we're just going to get stuck again with this is the size of the parcel we have, and we can't get the traffic on it, and we're going to have it like backed out onto like Macy Island Road and all over the place. And just want to make sure that it's all captured internal to the school and there's appropriate stacking. But we have no detail of it here. It's just a blank space.
Because the improvements for the school are being provided by the school district, the developer was required to provide the land. So once the school district is ready to submit their site development plan for the school, that's when we're going to see the details. And there's standards by the Osceola County for the stacking and design for the schools.
But do you see my problem with it?
I-
It's like we're
I
putting the cart
understand.
before the horse. It's like it happens all the time where it's like, well, that's all you have now, and then everybody complains that it wasn't big enough, but we've
Yeah.
already approved. So that makes me uncomfortable.
I believe-
with this.
I apologize.
Go ahead.
I believe that that the size of the acreage of the space was already negotiated with the school district through an agreement, a school agreement, but the applicant can confirm that information. That I believe that agreement was established sometime quite ago when the master plan for the Tohoku district got approved in the county.
I get that, but you still.
I totally understand. I totally understand.
You still, we end up, well, that's all we got, and then we have, you know, problems with stacking. I mean, we still haven't resolved the stacking in Anthem Park that everybody promised they were going to resolve 2 years ago. So that's my issue on this.
Would the applicant like to speak to that?
I would just have to somewhat echo Dag Marie that the acreages was agreed to with the school with the, I suppose, my understanding, I can't speak for the school board, but I know they've seen several site plans with we've worked with them on 2 access points, actually 3 access points, so that they can maneuver buses versus parents versus other uses in there in terms of to get traffic where they need to within the site. But like I say, I can't speak to their design, but I know that they were working on how they manage the traffic internal to their site on some of the site plans and discussions that we've had. But that is the acreage that they
All right.
said they needed to operate per the agreement.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Trace.
Thank you. So along the same line as that school question, do we know when, it doesn't have a name on here, but that east-west road, will that connect across Macy Island to Kindred?
We do not know, but we have a meeting next week with the county to discuss those details. We require this subdivision to create the right-of-way for the future connection, and they have provided that on the plans as well.
But do we know if the county is going to have a connection on that side? Like, I just want to make sure it didn't get planned out.
Sorry, yes, I think, I think that.
And she has heels on,
State your
too.
name.
Melissa Dunklin, Community Development Director. I believe, Mr. Trace, what you're referring to is the actual framework road, not the local connection that we're negotiating.
Yeah, the further south, the one that's the north boundary
Yes,
line of that
Southbury.
school. Southbury.
Yes,
Okay.
they do connect to.
Are those sweet or sour berries?
They're south. That does connect. to
Okay, that will
Kindred.
connect, okay. And then, second question, this might be for the applicant. I didn't see an amenity center on this like there was on 4C. Will this share in on the other amenity centers in the community?
Great question, Keith. This is Chris Wren with Pulte Homes. There is, it's not like a formal amenity center with clubhouse or cabana, but there is significant open space in Phase 8 that will have a playground, park benches, just general open play area. that's there. And yes, that would be open, so the amenity in 4C, the open space in Phase 8, that's open to all the residents in the Tahokwa Master Plan community, same as the existing amenity that's further to the west.
Okay, so the big one, everyone shares?
Yeah,
that?
everybody,
Okay.
they're all shared amenities. Everything outside of the 5B Tahokwa Reserve section is shared.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. And I feel like there was also conversation long months ago when we were talking about this, about not having all those connections into Macy Island and preserving trees and things like that. So I don't know. I feel like this is a premature approval for me. Like, you know, if there's conversation still ongoing with the connectivity, the road sections, things like that with the county, it seems premature to me to approve a PSP.
Hi, again, Melissa Dunklin, Community Development Director. So right now, this PSP does not require the connection to Macy Island. We are preserving the 75-foot buffer. What they're doing is they are reserving right-of-way, but they are not improving it. And October 18th is the meeting date with Osceola County to further discuss if we're going to ask the applicant to make that connection or not. But I think we're leaning towards not, but we'll meet internally to make sure that we have a unified recommendation when we speak to the county.
As the applicant, I'd just like to point out that we can work through that detail at the SDP level with this. As Eric pointed out, we've been working with staff to get these PSPs to City Council now for Subdivision SC. My apologies, SCP. Then we can work through that with staff at that time. You know, we're obviously going to work with the county and staff to comply with whatever requirements are put towards us through that process. So we're looking forward to getting those plans submitted and reviewed by staff. So just requesting a motion for approval here. So thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Could I entertain a motion for approval?
Motion to approve?
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Trace, second from Councilmember Askew. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
No.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
And it is approved. Brings us, you're welcome, thank you. Brings us to our city attorney, Mr. Manzares.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just one quick item. As we informed you by email, we did close on the last 2 parcels at the Stevens Plantation Dependent Special District property. So all that property has been sold. We are working with the General Counsel for the bondholders to get some final certification of the completion of all the bonding. We have informal confirmation from them that there will be no more bond dollars expected out of the city or out of the DSD. So we're good there. Since Mr. Askew and Mr. Trace will not be here in November, I was hoping I could make them attend one last Dependent Special District meeting.
Absolutely.
And so we'd like to do that on before your October 27th meeting. Are you out? Is that when you're out? Oh,
That's okay.
you want to burden them though, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I won't be here, but y'all meet.
And really, we have one, I think I mentioned earlier, we have one little cleanup item we need to do with regard to Progress Boulevard there, and then hopefully I'll have some more of a report on it. But otherwise, preliminary, the project for the city's involvement with that entire project is, as the owner of any property or responsible for any development, is completed. And thank you for your patience with that.
What was that little comment you shared on your?
When's the partay?
Yeah, let's partay.
When's the partay?
I agree.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Our city manager, Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to one more time thank council for all the support you gave staff and me during our Hurricane Ian, I'm calling it a triathlon because it lasted for so long. You answered many phone calls and were very supportive of our staff, so I appreciate that. Also, like it was mentioned in the middle of all of that, October 1st, we did have the environmental utilities transition to TWA, and I just wanted to share that the $30 million, approximately $30 million in the city of St. Cloud debt for the utilities was paid off on Tuesday.
Awesome.
That's all.
Parte.
That was all. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to jump in and just, you have been tried by fire as our new city manager, and you are to be commended for all the extra hours of work and labor that you've put in, and thank you so much for what you've done. This time, Councilmember Trace.
Thank you. Just want to thank staff for the past 2 weeks of just helping out the citizens as much as they can in every facet of keeping normal city business going, but then also all the storm issues that we were dealing with and stormwater issues. So just want to thank everyone. And
Ditto. Councilmember Askew.
Just want to definitely thank staff. I see them every day down there at the lakefront and doing their thing. Everybody from the janitors cleaning the facilities, a little extra nowadays, but we can't really continue as citizens if we didn't have support from staff, from moving stuff from my front yard and garbage pickup and everything. There wasn't a blip in the system, so I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Urban.
Yeah, just echoing everybody else. Thank you, staff, for everything. It's been a very tough couple of weeks now, and just want to thank all staff for keeping it moving.
Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. Same comments. The city did a wonderful job, and we were definitely lucky. I feel like we definitely were lucky. I mean, I know we've been dealing with the stress of the lakes and things like that, but everybody has come together with great solutions. I do have one question to council, though. Do y'all feel like we need to limit the presentation time at the beginning of the meeting? Because I feel like, an hour and 15 minutes at the front of a meeting is a little bit extensive. I know that some updates are necessary, timely, but some couldn't be pushed. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we need to kind of limit that time for presentations. Over an hour to me is a little bit extensive. I didn't know.
5 minutes?
Yeah, like if everybody needs to do a presentation, well, they need to like shorten them up or something. I mean, I know these were extraordinary, but just as a matter of course, I feel like we need to restrict that presentation time. I didn't know how the rest of the council feels on that.
I get paid by the hour, so it's fine.
Oh, do you?
$0.
I don't know how you do that when you have a night like tonight. You have the
Right.
extraordinary things that you have, but
Well, like
normally we don't have nights like tonight. So.
Well, and like to me, like the OUC update on the fuel, that could have gone to another meeting. That didn't really need to be tonight. With the storm updates and things like that, I think we need to. Personally, I feel like some of that stuff could be shuffled around a little more judiciously and maybe restrict the amount of time people have to talk, not just like as long as you want.
I will work with our future presenters and work on that. We typically try to limit 4, and
4 is a lot.
Yeah.
Well, some people ask a lot of technical questions that just
sorry.
keep going on and on and on.
Well, and we also canceled like next 2 weeks from now, or next week's whatever meeting in September. I think only had one, so it's just one of those
Well, just as a matter of course, let's just try to limit the presentations. But that's it. Other than that, great meeting.
Mayor, if I could, during the hurricane presentation, it needed to be said on the record, and I don't think we did. I did waive the yard debris collection, and that needed to be said on the record.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Perfect.
That certainly need to be done.
Do you need to make a motion for that? Or
No.
we good? Okay.
Did you say it? Did that mean no? Yes.
No, you do not need to make a motion.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I thought you were saying no and you were doing this. Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Councilmember Matheny, are you through?
I'm done. Thank you.
All right. And I'm just, again, thank you all for all you've done. Your work has been amazing. Thank all of you. And it's been a lot to handle. You guys have been amazing. Thank our incident commander and our chief and our manager. All you guys have just been, thank you. Thank you. Brings us to our information section, report section, Thursday, October 13th. There will be a city council meeting, or there was, but it got canceled. October the 24th, 22, Monday, and then Sunday, November the 6th, will, or through Sunday, November the 6th, will be early voting for the general election. Thursday, October the 27th, there'll be a city council meeting at 6:30, and preceding that will be a DSD meeting. We have some additional proclamations that have been made in recognition of Blind Americans Equality Day. Issued a proclamation in recognition of National Fire Prevention Month. Warrant list number 18 is available for your review. There are no other items on our agenda. With that, we will be adjourned.
So we definitely did not follow the template for the grant. I sent everybody